編集の時間だよ。
Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Grave back at you with another new video. Now, I'm sorry it's been a while since the last video, about 2 weeks now, but I'm going to come back at you with episode 29. Now, this episode is practically a recap episode, and they do this in a way that is really creative, in my opinion. It starts out that Sakura tells Loveka that Hiromi is alive. Now, back in episode 21, Hiromi falls off a cliff because of Alteka blasting him off. Now, we thought he would be dead from that, obviously he's not. But this is rolling off the mini-drama Dear Gaga, which I don't believe is translated yet. Iki and Daiji go to visit him, but it turns out that Hiromi lost his memory of what happened throughout all of Revice. So they come home to the bathhouse defeated. Wondering what they should do, George comes in with a cart full of video equipment and suggests to them that they should make a memorial movie to help jog his memory. Back over at the Phoenix base, the director is recalling, now that Alteka's gone, Gifu has awakened, while the siblings and George are filming their parts for Hiromi's memorial movie. But they're having their own issues with the recording, and it took them a whole day to finish the recording. But when they're finally done, George comes in. Now the next part is to edit the video, which is oddly enough what I'm trying to do right now. It's pretty funny. So they spend an entire night, an all-nighter, doing the editing for their memorial movie. The next day, George comes in to check on them, and they are dead tired. He first checks Iki and Vice's part of the memorial video, which only shows mainly their part of the whole story, at least up till Hiromi becomes demons. Which, when Iki tried to mess around with it, he accidentally deleted the editing footage. Luckily, it got repaired, but then George looks at Sakura and Daiji's part of the whole video. Theirs is more focused on Hiromi rather than Iki and Vice, which is actually more in tune with what they're trying to do. But when they got to the part where Hiromi falls off the cliff, George stops them, and apparently it was too much for him to handle, which Daiji calls him out for, saying that it was his fault, and he never told Hiromi about Vale that's living in the Demon's Driver. George explains to him that the experiments were to create the ultimate Kamen Rider. That was mainly his goal, but he was also under strict orders to keep it a secret by the director of Phoenix. While the director is by himself saying that the demon in Hiromi's driver, the Demon's Driver Vale, is important to what they have planned. George then asks, or mainly begs, pleads, to, even though that he can't make up for what he's done, he wants to do what he can to help Hiromi, and bows down to Daiji, which Daiji lifts him up, agreeing to have him help. George then says that even though they came to an understanding, the footage they have been using for the memorial movie is technically owned by Phoenix, and asks them to not leak it to the public. They all agree. Vice is sitting in his chair, easy peasy, but then Vice accidentally uploads everything to the internet, to ByTube, the YouTube alternative in their universe, and it gets like a shit ton of views. It was pretty damn funny. Iki and Vice are put on timeout, while Daiji suggests they should put things that Hiromi should have missed. And while they were going to edit, Sakura then asks George if they should include stuff about the weekend, but George says they really don't have any footage of them, and plus, since his dad is there, he doesn't want to upset him. And Sakura then has her own summary of who the weekend is, that they are the ones that gave them the Libera driver and the rolling Vice stamp. And while she still has doubts about them, joining them would give her a chance to become strong herself and not having to rely on her brothers. So she decides to join the weekend. At that moment, Takumi comes in crying his eyes out because he can't find Aguilera. That he couldn't find her ever since she got slashed by Gifu back in episode 28. George then gives a USB drive to Daiji saying he has footage of everything they missed since Hiromi fell off the cliff. And hands it to him, and they watch the recording. And it's just George recapping everything that happened then onwards in a funny workout video. It explains to him the Volcano Vice Stamp, the Rolling Vice Stamp, and the new Thunder Gale Vice Stamp. While the director's saying that it was terrible losing Oteka, his replacement is not far away, which shows a flashback of Daiji, which means the director plans on using Daiji for his schemes to replace Oteka. George gets a call from Phoenix and asks Iki and Vice to go fight a new Guitarian that showed up. And since Iki and Vice are the ones that aren't editing, they're the only ones who can actually fight them. So they go off to fight the Guitarians. When they meet with the Guitarians, they notice that their color's off. Like, normally Guitarians are blue colored, but these ones are red. Iki and Vice turn into Volcano Rex and Barad Rex to fight the two new Guitarians. But the Guitarians seem to be too much for them to handle, so they opt to transform into Thundergale. And they make easy work with the two new Guitarians with a easy final slash to them. Which, disappointingly enough, this was like the only action scene in the entire episode. But anyway, back at the bathhouse, they are finally finished with editing, and George pulls out the final product of Hiromi's memorial movie, which, admittedly, I'm a little disappointed it's on DVD and not Blu-ray. Like, with all of Phoenix's budget, they couldn't afford a Blu-ray. Like, goddamn. Now, with all that out of the way, Sakura comes out of her room with her bags saying that she'll be off, and she's going to be joining the weekend, leaving the house. Daiji says that he still has things to finish up with Phoenix, and they ask what Iki should do, and he said that he'll stay at Happy Spot because he needs to protect their bathhouse, their home, for when Genta comes back and have a home for Daiji and Sakura to come home to. With that, all three siblings give each other a fist bump, and they go their separate ways. While Iki's cleaning up, Vice asks if it's okay that they'll be separated. Iki's not too worried about it, since they're all fighting towards defeating Gifu. Now George looks in the family photos, seeing how they were, and when he picks up one, he notices Iki finally disappearing from that photo. Now, finally, someone saw this happening other than Vice. So I hope we can get some explanation on what's going on with that. We then fade back into Phoenix with the director saying that Gifu's revival is upon them. And it shows who he was talking to this entire time. This, like, purple portal which led him to Gifu, who's standing on top of a pillar resting. And that's how the episode ends. Now, this episode, I'm not too big on recap episodes, but I do enjoy how they made this seem like they should focus this more towards regaining Hiromi's memories, since he lost them. I feel like that was a very unique way to actually do a recap episode, instead of them just, reminiscing on what happened this whole season. But anyway, what did you guys think on this episode? How did you feel about this unique take on a recap? And as always, I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace out.